Nothing gets under my skin quite like putting a lot of work into something only for it to not matter and not pan out. That's what happened to the Sacramento Kings tonight. They overcame a horrendous first quarter, battled back from down 23 points. Were in the driver's seat with just a few minutes remaining, only to botch the comeback altogether, erase all their hard work, and lose to the Denver Nuggets, 130-129. And there are many things wrong with this Kings team for sure, but the biggest issue may be their attention to detail, at least according to head coach Mike Brown. We'll discuss it all right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood Gold, which provides the privileges of high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News, back here inside of the Golden One Center, where I'm going to be here a lot over the next month or so. Tonight was game one of a 5-game homestand and game one of 9 out of 11 in this building. The Sacramento Kings don't leave California again until their January 10th game against the Boston Celtics. Their 2 road games over this stretch are in LA against the Lakers and in Golden State, San Francisco, against the Warriors. So a lot of time for some home cooking for the Sacramento Kings. And I shared with you, and I'm not exaggerating, I think this is the most important stretch of the season for the Sacramento Kings. This is the stretch that I believe will make or break this team as we know it. If this stretch does not go well, I question the Kings' ability to ultimately make the playoffs, and I certainly believe a move will be coming from Monte McNair and the Kings front office before the trade deadline again if this stretch doesn't go well. I think it'll be a necessity. And unfortunately, what should have been a win tonight for the Sacramento Kings, actually, it started where it should have been a loss, and then they fought all the way back to where it should have been a win, and then they just botched the comeback altogether and ultimately end up losing this game. While losing one of these 9 games at home over this stretch, or one of these 11 games during this stretch, is not the end of the world, the way you lost this game, oh, God, it stings. It stings. And there's so much, like you want to take so many positives from this game, right? And we are going to focus on some positives because there are certain things to be proud of and happy with how the Sacramento Kings battled back. But you can't keep putting yourself in these positions and expecting positive results, no matter how this team has shown an ability to battle back from huge deficits. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, because that's like an identity, a piece of this team's identity, I suppose. But down 41-21 at the end of the first quarter, the Kings outscored Denver 82-55 in the middle quarters, the second and third quarters. They come roaring all the way back. They get to a position where I think everybody thought the Kings were going to be able to close this game out, right? You're in crunch time. It's the final 3 minutes and 1 second, and the Kings are up 122-114. So you're up by 8 points with 3 minutes and 1 second to go. Now, 3 minutes is, of course, a lot of time in the NBA, but the Kings were playing well. They dominated everything outside of the first quarter. They're in control, right? They're firmly in the driver's seat, only to allow the Nuggets to go on a 9-0 run to take the lead at that point. And then the Nuggets ultimately ended the game from that point on a 16-7 run. Over that stretch, Denver, for the remainder of the game, the final 3 minutes and 1 second of this game, the Denver Nuggets didn't miss a shot. They went 2 of 2 from the foul line and a perfect 6 of 6 from the field, including a pair of huge three-pointers. As for the Sacramento Kings, over the final 3 minutes and 1 second, they went 2 of 5 from the field and had 1 turnover. Hey, Remember clutch scoring supposedly being a primary strength of the Sacramento Kings? Hey, you have DeMar DeRozan. You pair that with De'Aaron Fox, 2 of the most clutch players in the NBA, right? If the Kings can keep games close down the stretch, that's where they shine. That's where they should put games away. This tonight is the 11th game that the Kings have played that was decided by 5 or fewer points. Okay? Normally, in the circumstances, I would say if the Kings are in a game that is decided by 5 or fewer points, that is a position of strength for them. They should be winning a majority of those games. Well, in the 11 games where the Kings have, or the game has been decided by 5 or fewer points, the Sacramento Kings have 3 wins and 8 losses. 3 and 8 in very close basketball games. You win a few more of those, your record looks completely different. You win a few more of those, you're firmly in the driver's seat in the Western Conference, or at least you're firmly in the playoff picture. Not the play-in, the playoff picture. But the Sacramento Kings have failed to take advantage in an area that is supposed to be a major strength for this team. And once again, they did that, right? They fought hard, fought so hard to get back into this game, dominated outside of that first quarter, battle back, put their head down, get all the way into a position with a comfortable lead in an area of the game where they are supposed to be one of the best, if not the best, in the league. And they fall apart. They fall apart. You know the saying, down but not out? That sums up the Sacramento Kings really, really well. Because this Kings team is never out, right? They are never out of a game. They have proven that time and time again already this season. 20-point deficit, Kings can come back from that. 15-point deficit, Kings can come back to that. Tonight, 22, 23-point deficit, Kings can come back from that. Here's the problem, though. They might never be out, but for some reason they're always down. Why is this Kings team down big so frequently to where they have to go into this desperation mode that wakes them up and gets them back into games, right? It's a great trait for an NBA team to have, to never really be out of a game. It's a great trait to be able to erase all the hard work of a team in the first quarter like tonight, or if they put together a really good first half, or they put together a big run and the Kings can battle right back. Like, they're resilient. They can punch back. They never really stay down when they're knocked down. That's awesome. An amazing trait for a team to have, except when you're constantly being knocked down. At that point, you're just getting back up to receive more punishment. This Kings team, for some reason, is not able to avoid falling into these holes or giving up these major runs to which they are in a mode of desperation to where they have to execute or the game is going to be over quickly. Right? And what is the biggest thing I noticed from the Sacramento Kings in the second quarter compared to the first quarter? We could point to shots starting to fall. The Kings scored 47 points in the second quarter after scoring only, 21 in the first quarter? You could point to that and it's easy to go, oh, the shots started falling. Or, oh, the defensive execution was a little bit better. But beyond all that, the foundation, the root of what awoke the Sacramento Kings and what turned this game around for the Kings in those middle quarters, they fought. They played with energy. They battled. They hustled, right? The Kings woke up on both ends of the floor. They had 10 blocks and 10 steals tonight. Losing a game where you have 10 blocks and 10 steals is crazy, but I guess we shouldn't be surprised for the Sacramento Kings. And this is how bad this first quarter was for Sacramento, right? The Denver Nuggets finished tonight with 76 points in the paint. I mean, that's absurd. You should never win a basketball game when you give up 76 points in the paint. But 24 of those 76 points in the paint were in the first quarter. The Nuggets had 50 points in the paint at halftime. 50 points in the paint at half, and they finished with, it's crazy to say just 76, but you held them to 26 points in the paint in the second half. That you can live with. But early on, you're getting bullied on the inside. You're giving up way too many points at the rim. On top of that, the Nuggets finished this game with 9 second chance points. I thought it was way more than that, to be honest. But 9 second chance points and 15 total offensive rebounds. 6 of those second chance points and 7 of those offensive rebounds were in the first quarter, right? Even if you have this incredible ability to never be out of a game and to battle back and to give yourself a chance every single night, you can't expect to win games frequently if you're falling behind early and you're not executing out of the gate. And I don't know what it is about this team and coming out flat on their home floor. It's inexcusable. It makes no sense, but it is very consistent at this point. The Kings and their ability to execute early in games on their home floor has been a problem. The amount of times the Kings have fallen down by 15 or more points on this home floor is a problem. Even if they're able to battle back and win some of those games, with efforts like this and performances like this and some of the numbers that they put up tonight, individual and as a team, they should be winning these games, but are not, because of these big holes that they find themselves in early on. And it all comes back to one thing. We talk about a lot of issues with the Sacramento Kings, but Mike Brown narrowed it down to one thing: attention to detail, the little details. You're going to hear a long soundbite. I'm going to play for you a couple minutes of Mike Brown. It's bits and pieces of his post-game talking about these details and the Kings not executing these details. And we're going to dive into what Mike Brown is saying and why I can't really blame Mike for what the players are choosing not to do. That's all still to come here on Locked On Kings. Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by BetterHelp. How do you stay cozy during these cold winter months? For some, wrapping up in a blanket with a mug of hot chocolate or watching a movie with family is the best way to spend the month of December. Therapy is a best way to bring yourself some comfort that never goes away, even when the season changes. Look, as much as the Christmas time and the holiday time is such a wonderful time for so many people, it can also be a difficult time for people struggling with mental health. It's the time where you're supposed to be happy. Everything around you says everything's supposed to be great. But a lot of times, that's just not how life works out, right? I'm speaking from experience. Mental health can hit really, really hard during this time of year. I've been seeing my therapist, TJ, for years now, really since COVID. And it's changed my life. And not only has it helped me unpack certain things that I have carried with me all my life, things I didn't even know I was dealing with, or problems that I face every day, but it also helped give me the coping mechanisms and the skills to be able to handle what life throws at me today, tomorrow, and in the future. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire, and you'll be matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Many of you in my comment section on YouTube and many of the emails that I've gotten or tweets that I've gotten or messages on Blue Sky involve Mike Brown, frustrations with Mike Brown. And now I, more often than not this season, have been in front of Mike Brown, meaning I've defended Mike against some of the comments that I've seen. And I still firmly stand by Mike Brown as a really, really good head coach, the right head coach for the Sacramento Kings. I'm not wavering on that. There are mistakes that Mike Brown makes, just like there are mistakes that the players make, just like there's mistakes that Monty McNair in the front office has made, right? We all make mistakes. Mike Brown is certainly not blameless. But I want you to listen closely to this clip from Mike. This is actually a compilation of some of his answers to a couple different questions from postgame tonight. But the theme is all the same. Mike talks about the attention to detail, the little details, the little things. There was that famous and fun post-game moment where Mike said possession after possession after possession after possession 24 times, right? And his whole point was that this Kings team needs to embrace the details and do the little things and execute in areas of focus every single possession, every single time down the floor, because that's the difference between a good team and a great team. Well, here's the other side of that coin. Here's Mike, clearly frustrated, clearly agitated, talking about the things that the Kings did not do tonight that ultimately end up costing them in a 1-point loss to a very good Denver Nuggets team.
We can't afford to not pay attention to the details, especially when you play a good team. And I somehow, some way, have to do a better job of getting that across to my group. We can't let the Denver Nuggets come in here and score 76 points in the paint when they're not throwing the ball to Jokic 55 times. Look at the first 3 possessions. First 3 possessions, we gave up 3 offensive rebounds. There's nothing that you could do as a coach or anybody on the bench in situations like that except each man on the floor has got to box out. That's where it started, and that's where it snowballed. Give our guys credit. I give them a lot of credit. They fought their way back in the game. There was a sense of physicality from the guys coming off the bench, starting with Kobe Jones, Keon Ellis, and whoever else played. There was a level of physicality that we didn't start with at the beginning of the game. There was a level of focus that we didn't start with at the beginning of the game. And again, that's where we as a group have to figure out, are we going to really embrace the details? It's hard to box out, especially when you got guys crashing like they're crashing. Am I going to do it for 48 minutes? I'm going to wait and see if a teammate gets it. Or am I not going to hit a guy like I'm supposed to? We can't wait to turn it on. Teams are too good in this league. The comeback happened when we decided to play defense, and when we got out and ran, and when we boxed out. We could score. And I don't even know who was on the floor during that time. Malik hit some big shots, but he can hit all, if you're down 20, he can hit 15 out of 20 big shots. If you don't get a stop, if you don't box out, then they're going to keep that 20-point lead. So our guys finally got to a point where they decided to defend and box out, which gave us an opportunity to get out and run. Yeah, we can feel good about the consolation prize because we did fight back. But I'll be damned, I wanted to win this freaking game. And we had a chance to win it. And we kicked ourselves in the foot too many times.
Everything Mike Brown is saying there matches the eye test. Everything he's saying there, right? This team not fully buying in through their actions. Their words are fine. Like, we also talked to De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk post-game, and what they're saying matches what Mike Brown is saying. We need to be better on this. We need to execute in these areas. We need to box out better. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to hone in on the details. They are all echoing what their coach is saying. And I don't believe in any of this nonsense that I've seen that Mike Brown has lost the locker room and that Mike is preaching things that the players disagree with or don't agree with. He's not. What Mike is not preaching anything or saying anything with these guys or trying to do anything with this group that is crazy or taboo or out of left field or doesn't make sense. What Mike is talking about, what he's talking about in this clip, executing the little things, these are the fundamentals that we're taught as kids playing this game. Right? Doesn't matter how great you are at knocking down threes. Doesn't matter how amazing you are at protecting the rim or throwing down high-flying dunks. It's these little details, these little areas of the game, these little fundamentals that you have to be not just able to execute, but willing to execute over and over and over and over again and master, make it second nature to do these things every time down the floor on both ends of the floor every single night you play, right? It's not just game by game. It's not just quarter by quarter. It's possession by possession. And this Sacramento Kings team fails to do it, whether it's not being ready to go in the first place like they were in the first quarter of this game and getting physical and not boxing out and getting bullied, or it's finding success in certain areas on the offensive end or in certain areas and then going away from it because you get bored by it or you don't want to do it every single time or you get lulled into this false sense of security. This Kings team does both of them. So, again, while I understand Mike is not blameless, he's had questionable rotation issues. He makes decisions. He emphasizes certain things that sometimes I don't think he should emphasize. He's mishandled playing certain players or not playing certain players. 100%. Mike is not blameless in those areas and he's not perfect. But how can we blame the head coach when he's telling you these are the things we have to do to win? And it's not anything that, it's not like he's saying abandon all offense and only focus on the defense or abandon all defense and only focus on the offense. He's saying these little things, boxing out. How can we blame the head coach for boxing out when the players won't box out? How can we blame the head coach for the players allowing so many backdoor cuts against a Denver Nuggets team that's one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league? How can we blame the head coach for the team not being ready to go and not coming out with the energy necessary in the first quarter on their home floor after multiple days of rest in a crucially important stretch of the season? I don't blame for the coach for that. It's not on Mike Brown for these grown NBA players to go into the locker room and fire everybody up with this hoorah, rah-rah speech to get them energized and ready to go. That is not Mike Brown's responsibility. And if this team needs that from their coaching staff on a nightly basis, they're not a good basketball team. I hate to break it to you. So if the problem is the little details with this team, and again, what Mike is talking about, we're seeing it on the floor happen night in and night out. And the players are saying the same things when a microphone is put in front of them. If this is what's going wrong with this team, if this is the root of the issue with the Sacramento Kings, it is not a coaching problem. It is on the players who are either unwilling or unable to remain focused and execute in these areas, and it is directly costing them games, especially close games. Again, the Kings are 3-8 in games decided by 5 or fewer points this season. The little details make a massive difference in close games like that. And again, guys are saying the right thing. Fox and Monk are saying the right thing. We got to do this better. We need to execute better. When we were paying attention to the details, that's when the second and third quarter big runs started happening. That's what got us back into this game. I'm glad the players are on the same page with Mike. They are buying in, or they have bought in to what Mike and his coaching staff are preaching and the way this Kings team is trying to play, or at least they say they are. But the execution on the court isn't there. And at some point, the coach and coaching staff can only do so much. Mike Brown burned through timeouts like a Christmas budget in this game. He called 2 timeouts quickly in the first quarter, another timeout quickly in the second quarter. Like, he was not afraid to call those timeouts and regroup this team and try and refocus this team. And it still didn't work during those bad stretches. So at what point is De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis or DeMar DeRozan or Malik Monk or somebody on the freaking court actually wearing a jersey going to pull everybody together and go, we are not executing on these little details. Focus the hell up and let's do this. That's what's missing. And I'm not blaming Fox. I'm not blaming Sabonis. There is an on-court leadership issue that allows the Sacramento Kings to drift away from the areas where they need to be locked in. And that's what's costing this team games. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL or the MLB or the NBA or the NHL or college sports. Whatever it is, you can bet on it all in one place. That's FanDuel.com. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All things considered, we're still relatively early into this season. We're a quarter of the way through the season. There's still so much of this season left. That being said, the Kings have had way too many great moments this season already erased by bad losses. Right, let's just go down this list. De'Aaron Fox scores 50 points in a loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Domantas Sabonis gets a massive triple-double in Game 2 of the season in LA against the Lakers. The Kings fall apart in the fourth quarter, lose that game. The Kings have that epic fourth quarter comeback in Toronto against the Raptors to force overtime. Another triple-double for Domantas Sabonis. The Kings lose that game. Now tonight, you battle back from down 22 points. You're in the driver's seat. You fall apart. You lose. So many games already this season where, shoulda, woulda, coulda. The Sacramento Kings shoulda won. And again, we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 wins, not sounding like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but you take 4 losses away and add 4 wins to the Kings win column right now, where that would put them in the Western Conference, these little things add up, and they add up quickly. And if it's already having this drastic of an effect on the standings and the record, 20-something games in, whatever the Kings are at right now, a quarter of the way in, if these things continue to pile up and pile up and pile up, imagine how big of a difference it's going to make when we get to March, when we get to April, and we're starting to really look at the playoff picture and seeing if the Sacramento Kings will make it or be spending their playoffs on the couch again. But there were great things from this game, great things that I have to talk about. 2 performances in particular. Number 1, Domantas Sabonis loves playing in big games against the best bigs in the league. He loves it. He lives for it. Tonight against Nikola Jokic, 28 points, 12 of 20 from the field, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals. Jokic tonight, his team got the win, which is what's most important, but Jokic a 20-point, 8 of 19 from the field, 1 of 6 from three-point range performance. The 1-3 hurts because it was a 3 that he hit. Of course, he hits the 3 at the end of the game to ultimately help the Nuggets win this game. He also had 14 rebounds, 13 assists. That's a triple-double, 2 steals. Did have a number of turnovers as well, but who cares? We're only focusing on the positives for both of these guys. There are plenty of comparisons. I've done it before where I talk about the gap between Domantas Sabonis and Nikola Jokic not being as big as people want to make it out to be. That lit the internet on fire and set everybody ablaze. And so that's not the point of this podcast. That's not what I'm going for. My point is, here's Domantas Sabonis again, whether it's Nikola Jokic, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, you name it. If there's a big center matchup, Domantas Sabonis attacks it. He doesn't shy away from it. That's what you love to see. Sabonis, the Kings certainly didn't lose this game because of Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis did his part in this game. And the Kings lost it. Couldn't get him that win that he needed over Jokic. And Sabonis is just a warrior, man. I don't mean a Golden State warrior. I just mean like he battles. Because in the second quarter, he went up for a dunk, was fouled hard by Michael Porter Jr. Clean foul. Nothing malicious about it. Falls all the way onto his back. Now remember, a couple weeks ago, Domantas Sabonis missed some games because of a back issue. The back clearly is hurting him for the remainder of this game. After he falls, he hits his back, and I'm not the best lip reader in the world, but I had a shot of it, and I posted it on my Twitter account at MattGeorgeSack if you want to see it. But it looks like he turns to the Kings bench and he says, "Don't take me out. Don't take me out." Goes in, finishes out the half, comes out in the second half, plays a boatload of minutes in the second half, and nearly led the Kings to a victory in this game. Domas is a warrior, man. He's awesome. He fights hard. Love the way he plays. Of course, I will scream from the rooftops that he doesn't get enough respect, but that's not my point for tonight. I'm just focusing on how hard the man played in a battle against Nikola Jokic in a game that the Sacramento Kings should have won. Again, shoulda, woulda, coulda, doesn't matter. Kings should have won this game. Domantas Sabonis was huge tonight. He was excellent. And I hope, man, for the sake of Domas, if nothing else, I hope the Kings make it back to the playoffs so that the world can watch Domas knock down middies and three-pointers in a playoff series, because that was all they saw and all they continue to chirp about from that Kings-Warriors series from 2 years ago. Oh, the Warriors just gave Domantas Sabonis mid-range shots and he was scared to shoot it and he wouldn't knock it down. His mid-range shot is butter. And his three-point shot is excellent as well. But that mid-range shot, he's shooting it with no hesitation. If you give him that elbow jumper or that 15-foot midi, he's knocking it down at a high freaking rate. So I beg just to shut those freaking people up. I beg the Kings make the playoffs so that Domas can be given that shot and he can continue to knock it down like he's done all season long to this point. And tonight we saw the return of Ellis Island. Keon Ellis was instrumental in the Sacramento Kings battling back into this game tonight. 12 points, 3 of 7 from the field, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and 5 blocks. Keon Ellis had half the team's blocks by himself. 5 blocks ties his career high. Again, we're talking about like a 6'2", 6'3", 6'4 guard getting 5 blocks in this game. He played all but 1 second of that 47-point second quarter where the Sacramento Kings turned their 20 2-point deficit into just a 7-point deficit, and then the Kings exploded out of the halftime break with their great start to the third quarter. Keon wasn't on the floor for that, but Keon, you talk about the energy and the difference of the focus and the fight that the Sacramento Kings had in that second quarter to battle back in. Keon was a massive part of that. Also, shout out to Malik Monk too. Malik Monk had 3 blocks. De'Aaron Fox also had a block. So 9 out of your 10 blocks came from your guards. 9 out of your 10 blocks came from guys that are 6'3" or 6'4". That's pretty crazy. But unfortunately, it doesn't matter because the Kings lost the game. All that great stuff. Wish I could celebrate it. Wish I could have talked about that in the first segment. Doesn't matter because the Kings lost the game. Back to work. Back to under 500. See if the Kings can get back to 500. They got back-to-back games coming up on Thursday and on Saturday against the Los Angeles Lakers. That team is kind of reeling and figuring things out too. They've been a bit banged up as of late. We know Kings-Lakers in Sacramento is always a good time. I'm not the biggest fan of playing the same team twice, especially a team that's an hour and a half away plane ride. But whatever. Kings-Lakers. 2 days in a row, or 2 games in a row. Hopefully the Sacramento Kings can get both of those wins and get above 500. But in the couple of days before that game on Thursday night, I plan on having a couple of guests. Chris Biederman from the Sacramento Bee will join me on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Kings. And then I will link up with the Kamenetsky brothers of the Locked On Lakers podcast, and we'll do a little Kings-Lakers preview on Wednesday. So keep an eye out for both of those shows. Now I want to hear your thoughts on tonight's game, the frustration, the sting of defeat. You want to talk about the good stuff from the comeback, the frustrating parts of this game, anti-Mike Brown, whatever it is you want to talk about, let's talk about it. Hit me up on Twitter, @MattGeorgeSack. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Appreciate your support. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.